Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Wake and Jake. We are joined by the tribal chief, Jared Carrabis. I always get nervous, man.
Don't get nervous.
That last moment before I was going to say the C word. I always get nervous that I'm going to say it wrong. But
well, Dave, my former boss, he put it in everyone's minds the wrong way. But the right way is Carrabis. Yeah.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. It's good to talk to you. I just feel like it's been some time. We don't get to talk ball like in person as often as I feel like we should.
Dude, it felt like there was a little bit there when our stuff was getting going. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll see him at the Easton event. We'll see him at winter meetings. We'll see. And now, I don't know. I kind of want to end with that because we did a little bit of that before we started recording because you got some life stuff going on. We got everything going on. But the first thing that's going on is, how about the Sox, kid?
How about them Sox?
And it's so funny. I'll give you credit. You sent a very good text message yesterday. I texted you and I was like, Jared, would love to have you on. Want to talk some Sox and AL East. You didn't copy and paste, but you were like, I was just thinking I would love to come on Wake and Jake and talk some Sox and some AL East. And then between that, your star third baseman.
I don't know who you're talking about because we have two of those.
Right. Rafael Devers had an interview that I do think it's a little bit the spring training. Everyone's just thirsty for anything to chew on, but also with the personalities involved, Cora, Devers, Bregman. The fun baseball content of the day was what's going on the Red Sox hot corner. So let's get it out of the way.
Devers. All right. So here's what I heard. I was told that, and maybe this isn't true, but I was told that if Nolan Arenado was the move, let's say hypothetically Bregman signs with the Cubs, the Red Sox pull the trigger on a Nolan Arenado trade. I was told that if that scenario played out, that Devers was cool with moving off third base for Nolan Arenado.
Okay.
Can't confirm it. That's just what I heard. Didn't hear anything about Bregman specifically, but it worked out where it's Bregman and not Nolan. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm sure that once, Devers is taking ground balls at third and Bregman's taking ground balls at third because he did today. I mean, you knew that even if he wasn't going to be a third baseman, you're still going to see him take grounders at third. So the Boston media is looking at this as, well, people haven't paid attention to the Red Sox in quite some time, so let's stir some stuff up. Let's talk about it. I knew that the Devers moving off third, having an issue with it narrative was going to be a thing. And I was trying to get out in front of it and be like, don't let this become a thing. If he was cool with moving off third for Nolan, obviously he's going to be fine with moving off third for Bregman. And then day one, he shows up and he's like, nope, not doing it. Absolutely not. Won't do it.
A hard no, yeah.
No.
Can you expand on that?
I played third.
So, isn't it their decision though? Isn't it the Red Sox decision, or is it a mutual thing, or?
¿Cómo fue?
Que si.
So
he's so confused too. He's like, a mutual thing? No. It's my decision.
Right.
I make the decisions around here, and that's what he said. So Davison is the translator. Love him, great guy. But he left out the part. We didn't get to that part in the clip, but Chris Cotillo, Mass Live, he's the reporter that said, well, what if they just tell you that you're, playing at DH instead of third? And isn't it their decision? And Devers actually says in Spanish, it's my decision. And that was not given in the translated response. So it's actually kind of a little bit worse than what was making the public rounds. But the way that I look at it is it's mid-February, and how often do we have drama that plays out in spring training that by the time Mother's Day rolls around, you're like, hey, remember when that was going on? That was crazy, right? It's just all water under the bridge at that point. I think this will be another one of those situations where Cora and Rafi have such a great relationship where they're going to iron this out. whether or not that means that Devers, like at this point, I would guess Devers is the opening day third baseman, but I don't think he finishes the season at third base. I think they're going to try to mix and match where some days Bregman's at second, some days Bregman is at third, some days maybe Bregman's DHing. I don't know. Or maybe he has a day off because he's kind of like a reverse splits guy. Maybe there's a lefty in the lineup and they go a different route. I don't know. But what seems kind of like a big deal right now, I think will iron itself out in due time.
What's the just fan dream? Is the fan dream like Rafi tips the hat, he goes to DH, maybe there's a Yoshida trade at some point and roll the ball out there, we figure it out?
That would be the dream, yeah. Because I think like Masataka Yoshida is, for better or for worse, he's a fan favorite. Right. Like the fans love him. But I think the fans are also smart enough to know that there's no, like, he just doesn't fit. The Red Sox have already told you, we don't want this guy to see the grass of the outfield ever again. For as long as he lives, he will not do that. But then they were kind of walking it back a few weeks ago at the Fan Fest. They're saying, no, we'll throw him out there. And it's like, this is just a ploy to try to get a team to take him. Be like, no, he doesn't suck at defense. You can definitely put him in the outfield. Right. It won't be bad. So the ultimate scenario to play out would be Bregman at third, Story at short, Christian Campbell breaks camp with the Red Sox to play second, Casas at first, Rafi at DH, and then you find somebody to take on Yoshida's money. Even if you have to eat a little bit, it's the same thing with you guys and Stroman. Like, you just already have the starting pitchers in the rotation in place. If Stroman doesn't fit in, Cashman kind of backed him up, being like, no, he's right. He is a starter. So we have enough starters. We don't need him to start. So does anyone else want to take this guy? Like, that'd be great. Same thing. Like, Yoshida can hit, but we have a better DH, and his name's Rafael Devers. We're paying him $30 million. So the piece just doesn't fit at this point. Yeah,
I wonder if we're just going to see, because if I said, when was it? Last Thursday, if I said, hey, Jared, let's hop on the mics, we probably would have opened with, whoa, Stroman. Look at some of these quotes. And now that's already gone, and some got taken out of context. I wonder with, like, the big teams in baseball, if we're going to see more of the, and I guess we do see it, but I think teams are just looking at it differently now that, Jordan Montgomery was supposed to get traded, Yoshida, Stroman, that, we're already starting to get the injury round. Like, we got the Frankie Montas news today. There's going to be a lot. We haven't started playing ball, that there's going to be a lot more. It's so funny bringing up Yoshida's page after last year. And it's like, oh, so he landed in the same spot. And like that little booger can hit, man. So everything's going to figure itself out. But we're also bloodthirsty baseball fans that football's now done and now we're here. So I'll put the Devers thing behind us because I think it's going to be behind us soon because he'll be out there. He'll be hitting off Cole. He'll be hitting off everyone very soon. Mm-hmm. Dude, how are you guys? Because the Sox are back.
Sox are, like, I'm still reluctant to go there.
Really?
Yeah, because, like, I don't know. It's, like, back to me means, like, one of the World Series favorites. And right now, I think it's like, yeah, they're back in terms of when I do my predictions, like, am I going to have them in the playoffs? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be like a happy to be there fan. Like, I don't want to be one of those.
Okay.
So back to me is when you've got fans of like the top teams being like, damn, like the Red Sox are like, we should look out for the Red Sox this year. I don't know. Like, what's the pulse? Like, are Yankee fans looking at the Red Sox being like, oh, they're going to be tough in the AL East this year? I don't think so.
Well, I guess I think there's one thing that should be thrown out there. The Dodgers should be, like, illegal just for right now. Because, baseball kind of doesn't work that way, but they are that. So if the Dodgers are aside, in the American League, if I'm not picking the Yankees, I think I'd pick the Red Sox. Like, Houston lost Kyle Tucker, and their parts in, parts out is very interesting. Like, dude, you start jumping. Okay, Orioles probably deserve more love. Like how quickly we've kind of snapped on them. Like, if another,
what a dud offseason for them though.
Well, that's the thing, but if a couple of their young guys like go again, whatever. But also, you're very much right. Like they haven't won anyone over. That dude, the next team I jump to is like Seattle finds another hitter. So if I'm already there, like yes, like Boston is here, and I mean, dude.
What about Texas? Do you like Texas?
I like Texas. I think everyone's going to like Texas. I think they should bounce back. And if Langford or Carter is there, like the Peterson signing's underrated. But I don't know. I mean, even in their World Series year, they were, 88 wins or something like that.
Yeah.
So I very much like a lot of the pieces, but could the Red Sox be that? I mean, with the top of their lineup now and like what's Crochet? Is Crochet elite? Is he what he was last year, which was really good and a couple blowups, but he ran out of gas because he's young? Like, dude, yes, the Red Sox are back amongst the elite in the AL, and that's kind of, it sounds like dumb front office baseball nowadays, but that's the goal.
Is to just get there.
Not to get there, but like, okay, let's throw the Central under the bus a little bit. Like, the Guardians have been getting there. The Twins have been getting there, but when you get in that 5 or 7 game set, like, you're feeling okay. You're like, let's not blow one early. But you're feeling okay that, the Yanks came back against the Guards down 2-0. Like, I don't know, like the Red Sox with that lineup, the guys in that lineup, and it's going to come back to the starting pitching. And does Houck take another step? Like, if Houck and Crochet take another step, then yes, absolutely.
I'm letting you talk.
Were you just baiting me there? What was that?
No, I'm letting you talk me into it because I think, like, I'm with you on how I think, and I've been saying this because people were saying, oh, like, the workload last year, do you think he's going to be as good? And I'm like, I think he'll be better. Like, I think he could be better than he was in his all-star campaign last year. Crochet, it's interesting to me because, I mean, he came out day one and was like, yeah, like that innings limit, that was them. That wasn't me. He's like, I was ready to go. I would have thrown more pitches if they let me, but they didn't let me. So he was basically saying, yeah, the White Sox are dumbasses and they wouldn't let me pitch. So if he felt like he could, then okay, like we'll see what that looks like this year. So I don't know. And then I think it's what's interesting about the Red Sox this year. I was just on a podcast yesterday, Pod by the River, and one of the co-hosts, Brady, made the point of who is the Red Sox or who is the projected Red Sox #1 starter last year. And I was like, Lucas Giolito. And he's like, where do you have him this year? And I was like, probably 5. And he was like, there you go. Like, your opening day starter last year is now your #5 starter. So you're in a pretty good spot from a rotation standpoint. The bullpen, you can take it or leave it. They don't have an established closer. It's so weird having Aroldis Chapman on my baseball team.
Yeah.
They haven't even played a game yet, and I already feel very strange. I don't even know what I'm going to do.
Right.
Like, if he comes out and, punches out the side in Yankee State, like, I don't even know that I can celebrate it. I kind of just have to celebrate the victory without acknowledging that he was the guy that did. I don't know. I feel like I would be the biggest fraud in the world if I just all of a sudden was like, yeah, my guy Chappie. Like, I can't do that. Yeah,
I'm again, at the end of the show, I want to talk a little life. But hey, man, I'm a little happy that I'm not 24 in this current Chappie situation because my God, what I'd be doing on Twitter to Red Sox fans that really, Chapman was the easiest target for a while, and probably rightfully so. That's one I haven't fully gotten to yet, because from the Yankee side, it's like, okay, who's he going to hit? Like, that's going to be a fun day. And then I guess I've just put it in the brain as like, Red Sox have brought in, the Sox have needed pitching, dude. And Aroldis Chapman is a good left-handed reliever. He struck out 90-something in 60 innings last year. Like, he's still doing that. And I don't know what's going to happen back there. Hendricks, Chapman, you guys Slayton broke out last year. Whitlock.
Yeah, he's nasty.
But the Red Sox, the past couple years, because the Red Sox have also just earned dude, when summer kicks in Boston, there's a beautiful thing to it. I know I don't have to tell you, But when that city gets the juice and the team gets the juice and they call up whatever reliever has a gross beard and they got some platoon guy that's going nuts, like the baseball energy happens in Boston, and it is truly a beautiful thing that the past couple years have been like, can they get that? Can they find that? They're going to have that this year, man. Like they're going to have that. It's just what does all the sum of the could Chapman be off this team in June? 1,000%. Could Chapman be pitching in the 8th inning of a playoff game? 1,000%. So I think that's the beauty and the fun of it.
Yeah. I mean, Aroldis Chapman closing out playoff games for me is like my kind of nightmare where it's just like, yeah, man, you're back. You haven't been in the playoffs since 2021. But the fate of your entire life, your livelihood falls in the hands of Aroldis Chapman, the man that you've just been crushing justifiably for the last, I don't know, what, decade? When was that suspension?
Yeah.
17? 16?
16.
16? Yeah. So basically a decade.
Yeah.
Like one of my most viral clips of all time is me just shitting on Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah.
Now here he is. Have you ever crossed paths with him before?
Not directly. Joe's also very strongly linked to Aroldis Chapman, his probably biggest viral clip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
they've always been, I mean, Joe's has an argument for most interesting man in the world, but him and Chapman have always been like DM buddies and also just like a step past that. Like, I don't know, like it's a Latin guy connection and like they'll voice note each other and it's just like how it works. That it would always be this weird thing that like we'd be talking about Chapman and Joe's would be like, yeah, we talked for a little bit the other day. And you'd just be like, what? Like, what? Yeah. Neither of you should be talking to each other.
No.
Me, BBD, and all the other Yankee fans have felt the bad side of that experiment, especially in the postseason game. So I guess I understand your feelings there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like out of all the trash that I've talked about him, I still don't know that he has any idea who I am, because I'm sure he gets it from all corners. I don't know how online he is. I mean, the final, like the Altuve walk-off in 19, like that was the clip that obviously went super viral. Like I remember Bill Burr was talking about it on his podcast. So if it crossed his dash, it would have been that. But I don't think that he would have been able to like see me in person and be like, "Oh, you're the guy from that video." I don't think that he would make the connection. If I told him that I was like, "Hey, like, I'm the guy from that video," I think he'd be like, "Oh, you're that dude." But I don't think he would just like see me in the wild and be like, "That's him." Because I ran into him not this past offseason, the offseason before. He was at Pedro's charity event, and we were standing right next to each other.
And he's not a big guy, so.
He is a mountain of
yes.
He is a very large human being. But yeah, no, he didn't say anything to me. Nothing.
Yeah, I bet his internet algorithm. He loves weightlifting and like doesn't he have a ton of white cars? Wasn't that a day in our office?
Yeah, there's.
So I don't know.
He has like a whole white room in his apartment.
Could be a good starting point for you guys. I mean, maybe you just leave it. Maybe just,
I'm probably gonna have to just leave it.
Maybe you just leave that over there.
I'm just gonna have to leave it.
What's the story that Red Sox people are talking about that the rest of baseball would be interested in? Like, does Trevor Story's in a really interesting spot this year, in my opinion? Like, I don't know. I guess open forum for you.
Well, I think the most interesting story outside of the Devers drama today is I believe today was the deadline that Vladdy Jr. gave the Blue Jays to extend him or not.
Yes.
And as far as I've seen, that hasn't happened. And if he does not sign that extension with the Blue Jays, word on the street is that the Red Sox are going to be all in on Vladdy Jr. So what does that mean for a guy like Triston Casas?
Right.
Because these rumors were going on before Bregman was even in the fold. So before it was like, all right, if that were to happen, you sign Vladdy to play first, and Casas is your DH, and like I don't even know what you do. Like you would basically have to trade Triston Casas now if you sign Vladdy Jr. I don't see Alex Bregman opting out of $40 million next year. So if you're still going to be the team that's all in on Vladdy, then I don't know. I think that like, are we watching the last season of Triston? I mean, they tried to trade him multiple times this past winter, so it's not like it would come as a surprise if the Red Sox traded Casas, but I don't know how that would work. Like, do you trade him first and then sign Vladdy? You don't want to sign Vladdy and then have the teams be like, well, we know, like, we have the leverage now. We know that you need to trade him. So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, if that happens, you guys will be happy. But I just think you guys have it, and I don't know what the next steps are, but like the Bregman opting out thing is funny. If Alex Bregman opts out, that means this year went very well for you guys. That means Alex Bregman went nuts this year, and maybe he will at Fenway. We've seen, I mean, Tyler O'Neill. We've seen like past couple years. If you're a righty hitter and you get that Boston Summer kid. That if Breggy gets that, then yeah. But I don't know. I think they're gonna let this play out because we talked about the corner infield / second base with Bregman moving chairs. Talked about they got prospects on the way, man. The Red Sox are set up that I think they're gonna let baseball happen, and whether that's injuries and Story gets banged up another time, then all right, then we need a full nother plan because that's not working. That they've got the prospect capital, they've got the talent on the field that like all the plans have now come together. Giving Heim some time, like that group of prospects are here. They've invested in some players that I don't know, man. I guess I respect the calm, cool, collected nature of it, but I think looking around the AL, Boston's the scariest team right now, which the previous times that's happened in our Yankees existence, it's been bad news for the Yankees.
Yeah. I think if you were to draw a comparison right now, I think the 2025 Red Sox are most comparable to the 2018 Braves. Because that team, that core didn't win, and they won it without Acuna, but like they didn't win their World Series until 2021. But when they started calling up the kids in 18 and they were like, oh man, like everyone knew how good the Braves were going to be,
right?
But then they were kind of good right away and they were early. So their window had opened much sooner than I think a lot of fans anticipated, but inevitably they didn't get their championship until like 3 years later. I think that you could see something like that with the Red Sox this year. Like you sign Bregman to it's 3 years, it's $40 million a year, but there's opt-outs after every year. So theoretically, it could be a 1 year, $40 million like contract. You don't do something like that unless you're trying to win the World Series that year. So yeah, like I think the Red Sox could fall ass backwards into an ALCS like they did in 2021. Like no one thought that team was a World Series contender coming off of, they always come off horrendous seasons and then it's like World Series, like in what was it? In 2012 they were horrendous, then they won the World Series in 13. And then they were back-to-back last place teams 14, 15, then they hauled off 3 straight division titles with a World Series title at the end. So that's just what happens. Like they were horrendous in 2020 and then they kind of just fell ass backwards into the ALCS in 2021. I could see something like that where, they lose in 6 in the ALCS or something like that just because they caught fire and they have young kids who don't know any better. They've got Bregman, a guy who's been there, done that, and has a history of he's never not played in the playoffs. Bregman,
Right.
Like he's played in the playoffs every year of his big league career. So that matters. Like that stuff counts. So yeah, that's why I'm comfortable with putting them in the playoffs. If they don't win the World Series, I'm not like, man, like we fell short of the goal, like I think the goal is win, just like have a winning season. It's been years since even just having a winning season. So
yeah,
we'll
that's fair about the World Series expectation because it's not, and I guess that's a little bit that has me more scared because a Boston team that gets to play truly with their hair on fire, that's when. And dude, I don't know.
With nothing to lose.
You're talking about Chapman coming in. I'm thinking about whatever Matt Blake reliever project is coming in, and it's like, hey, go get Devers and Bregman in the 8th. Like I've seen that story. I've seen that story a lot. In the past couple of years, it hasn't been as scary just with how the division has played out, and I think there's going to be a few of those at bats this year, which will be exciting. And it's good for the game, Jared, and that's what we are. We are the Shield.
We are.
What else in the AL East? What do you think people need to be talking about it? Is it like the post-hype Orioles, or is there any Rays fear anymore? Did the Blue Jays do something?
I mean, I guess we can kind of talk a little bit about the Blue Jays and how they tried. Like, you bring in Max Scherzer, Tony Taters, you give him what, 5 years, and Vladdy's still here. You didn't move off of him, which is interesting to say the least. When you didn't get the extension done, maybe they thought they were going to, and it just didn't work out that way. I don't know what their line of thinking was, but he's still there. Can Bo Bichette bounce back? I believe he can. I think that he still has like an 800 OPS-ish season in him. Whether or not that amounts to a winning record, at the end of the day, it should. Like, I think I picked the Blue Jays last year to win the division. I'm pretty sure I did. Like, just based on their rotation. But we're also looking at a team that if they're not in it by the deadline, Vladdy's going to be a piece for somebody. Like that might be the crown jewel of the trade deadline is Vladdy if the Blue Jays aren't in it. So,
yeah, the Blue Jays are interesting because they brought in Andres Jimenez, so it's like they have the second half of their lineup scary, but they also have guys that are going to contribute in Jimenez and Kirk that like Varsho. I know he's out to start the year, but like those guys' floors because they're so good defensively is like 3 WAR seasons. So if one of those guys has a year offensively, Santander, man, how long have they been looking for that? Like we were talking about the top of that lineup for years. Get the lefty. And they kind of put their chips on Varsho, which was kind of just like, hey, I think Varsho's a nice player, but I don't think he's going to break up Bichette, Vlad, Springer. So I don't know. I think the Blue Jays, they just need a good 2 months, man. Because if they don't, you're right. Like Vladdy's the dream chip at the deadline that they'll get a ton of offers. I think Bassett's on his final year. Bichette, like they could, if they want to
clean house.
If they want to retool this thing, they can. With how the wild card's set up, this team should be around it. And I think they're going to end up unfortunately, this is a sad comparison for them. I think they're going to be in the same camp as the Angels with Shohei. Like, hey, we're kind of near it, and this could be our last year with Vlad. Like, let's do it. And hey, I hope the Angels are rarely the example. They're usually the bad example. That maybe that could be different for Toronto. Because maybe I get too romantic with the old pitchers, but like I see, Bassett, Barrios. Like let's put
Gausman.
Let's put together a season, boys.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I guess for me, I wonder how worried I should be about them just in the division. Because
I don't want to sleep on them. I'm certainly not sleeping on them. I think when you have kind of like season rollover expectations, that's where you kind of get in trouble a little bit. It's like, oh, well, they were bad last year, so they'll be bad this year. Well, no, they're a different team this year, and you don't know how it's going to play out. And they might have that same mentality that you were just talking about, where it's like, hey guys, like we're seeing the writing on the wall here. Baseball fans were looking at like the legacy Jays as a window, and people were very excited about it. And there were some postseason berths there. Was there a run? I don't think you could say that there was a run. Like there was no, like maybe 2021 was that one year where like the regular season run was exciting. Like I think they came up on they came up short on the very last day and didn't get in. But this is it, like the veterans in that room might be looking around saying, this is our last shot. And that's motivating to a lot of different guys.
Yeah, and you wonder, it's the cool stuff we still want in sports, like Scherzer being in that locker room, like that should matter,
Yeah.
And I hope it does. Like I I hope it's June 5th and the story that comes out is like, why Max Scherzer's the reason the Blue Jays are in it this year. Because there's still something fun about it. Like when Bouchette's balling out. And again, the Tony Taters factor, man. Like that was 44 last year.
Yeah, it plays.
You kind of alluded to it. There's a little bit of like not wanting it to work for the Orioles just because they're not doing it the fun way. Like Corbin Burns and Santander left, and they're just like, all right, Sugano,
Charlie Morton,
go out there and twirl it, like,
yeah.
And I don't know, I think they do have smart people running their team that maybe they have it figured out, but I kind of hope the people running Toronto have more than we think.
Yeah, like at least when you had the Legacy Jays window, the Blue Jays tried. Like they wanted Juan Soto. They wanted Shohei Ohtani. They just couldn't get anyone to take their money. Now you have the Jackson Holiday era of the Baltimore Orioles. And yeah, like they've pretty much hit on everyone who's come up. But what have you done to supplement this team? Like I gave them a ton of credit for the Corbin Burns trade. But did you extend him? No. And I don't even put that on the Orioles because from everything that was out there, there's no chance he would have rather pitched on the moon than on the East Coast of the United States.
Crazy.
So yeah, like I don't totally fault them for not keeping Corbin Burns there. But what else did you do? Like, did you go get Max Fried? Like, did you try to get Blake Snell? Like that's where, you walk away from with all the hype, all the prospects, and you lose your ace and you replace them with like, how old is Charlie Morton now? 41?
50. I don't.
Yeah.
Charlie Morton wanted to retire 5 years ago and he was too good.
Yeah.
Like the Braves kept paying him and he's like, well, I guess I got to do this. Yeah. Until age 30, I didn't think I was going to stick in the league. And now he's had an amazing over
second
a decade.
half.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're, I haven't done it this offseason yet. It's one of my favorite games to play is like when you put the off seasons on paper, and you're right, like the Corbin Burns, you can't because he wanted to go there. But Tyler O'Neill, Charlie Morton, Sugano, could that have been one Max Fried and someone else? And it's interesting. Like, how should we be talking about it when, I don't know, is Charlie Morton going to give us another dog season? And we're like, okay, maybe the Orioles are half smart, but that's the beauty of this time of year.
I'm not saying that Charlie Morton can't give you a good season, but is he going to give you what Corbin Burns would have gave you? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, would have been a little disappointed if I'm an Orioles fan. Who should be more disappointed, Orioles fans or Mariners fans? They didn't do dick.
Mariners.
Yeah.
1000% Mariners. They're doing the same game plan that hasn't come close to working.
No, so I get it. Like similarly to Corbin Burns, where he was just determined to pitch on the West Coast and sounded like he really wanted to be in Arizona. Pete Alonso, everyone's like, well, why didn't they just pay Pete Alonso? They need offense. Why don't you go pay him? He would have played in Korea before he played for another team other than the Mets, it seems. So I can't blame them for that. But I come back to Santander. How do you not make something like that happen? Dude, pop 44 homers. You guys need offense. Pay the dude. Then you also had the trade scenarios with the Red Sox. They have a plethora of starting pitching, and the Red Sox were like, hey, do you want Casas? They're like, no. And the Red Sox were like, do you want Casas and Yoshida? And they were like, no. So
okay,
I'm pretty pissed if I'm a Mariners fan. Like, it's like we have a very clear, desperate need, and there were multiple paths to make that situation better for us in 2025, and we did nothing to improve.
Well, they extended Victor Robles after his good 30 games last year. So
that's big time.
I got ahead of business on that one.
Yeah, I'm rooting for you, Victor Robles, but no, man, if I was a Mariners fan, I would be
furious.
We have the most important asset in the game, but we refuse to get any of the other assets. They're like, this is a bad comparison, but it's like you're playing Settlers of Catan with someone who just keeps like the sheep or some shit.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna use that.
I haven't played that in so long. That had a minute. Jared, we were joking beforehand that we were like, I felt like I was bumping into you at least like quarterly. Like, okay, I'll see you at this thing, winter meetings. that slowed down. Don't like that.
I don't like that either.
I think we'll find our way at Fenway this year. How are you doing? Because I want to go back a little bit, and hey, I asked for 30, but if we want to open up the board, but I mean, even
open up the board. Why
even
not?
going back to the end of Barstool, it was, you had the itch. You wanted to get back up to Boston. That was pretty. That was pretty clear.
Pretty clear. Did not love New York.
You're back there. Baseball is dead. Section 10, MLB Network, Nesson. We got radio stuff. Underdog. So you got your hands in different parts of different things. I mean, I want to get to the real life stuff, but I guess work life. Like, how are you doing with everything?
It's great, man. I get to do most of it from home. So I'll be on MLB Network tomorrow morning at 9:15. Okay. So like I'm doing stuff with them. Like this is all stuff that I just wasn't allowed to do at Barstool. They didn't want me to, and there's like other places like sponsors and freelance gigs where they didn't want to touch me because I was at Barstool. Right. So now I have the opportunity to do a little bit of a mixed bag of everything, which is awesome. Like I've been such a, like I send the producer, like, are you on Facebook?
I'm on the Facebook. Yeah.
So I have the Facebook. I'll look at my memories every morning. And every once in a while, like something will pop up and be like 16 years ago, like you said, like, I love MLB Network and like this is the best. And it was like that first year that it came out.
Right.
And like I'll always like send the producer, be like, dude, like I'm serious. Like I've been like a day one consumer of this product. So it's crazy to be able to even pop on for 15 minutes at a time every 3 months or whatever. So doing that's cool. And then we did the first ever Red Sox alternate broadcast last summer,
right?
Which was fun. It had its pros and cons. I think the stuff that we got to do that was like our idea was fun. There was kind of just, like trying to figure out what it is was a little bit of the difficulty where it's like, all right, like you want to be different. You want to obviously be the polar opposite of the traditional broadcast, but how much is too much? Like we want to be able to deliver an entertaining product, but we don't want, like, if people are watching us, like they care about baseball. So like, we don't want to get away from baseball. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think we did that a little bit too much of that at certain points. And then, like I do the stuff with Tony Maz, but getting Section 10 back was very, very key to my happiness. Like if I didn't, it would not have been the same if it's like, all right, me, Steve, Coley, and Tyler, like we all got back together, but it like couldn't be called that. Like I would just feel like a piece of me was missing. Like if you like couldn't use your government name anymore and they just gave you a different name, you'd be like, I don't even like answer to that. Like I'm just, it doesn't make sense. So I'm just happy that we have that going, and then being able to do Baseball is Dead with Dallas, and then we have Jay Hay in there, and Joey, who is he does the Baseball Doesn't Exist YouTube channel.
Right.
I just like was a big fan of his YouTube channel, and I was like, you've got to, your brain is so weird. I need it in podcast format. So that's how he joined us a few years ago. So I feel like we have the best lineup that of any point in my career. Like if I could handpick like, an all-star team of co-hosts and producers from since day one that I started, that's who's working with us today. So it's awesome. I'm very happy with it.
That's awesome, man. And hey, it's Talkin Jake. Dude, you're with the girl. Like I could bring out some of the Married to the Game stuff. Like, there's no need for it, but you're doing the damn thing. And social media, okay, this part's going to get off on the wrong foot. Social media is a little bit of bullshit. People are
sometimes.
A lot of people are exhibiting a fake part of their life for a different reason or whatever it is. I don't know, man. I like to think I've got a good meter for it. And I mean, you're smiling, you're dadding, like you're loving life, dude.
Yeah, she's great. So we met in high school. Like obviously, I think anyone that's consumed my content over the years is not used to seeing me in a relationship because like either I wasn't public with it or it wasn't serious enough to like post anyway. Pretty much my entire adult life. I think like the last relationship that I posted was over 10 years ago. Like 2013 was probably the last time I was like public with it. So people are seeing it now, and there's far more people paying attention these days than in 2013.
Yeah.
So that's how it ends up on like Reddit posts, and people are like, "Oh yeah, like she's a gold digger, blah blah blah." And it's like, little do you know, like we had Spanish class together in 2006. Like I've known her for a long time. She does not give a shit about my career.
Right.
Like she knows skinny Jared from Saugus High. Like that is that's who she like still sees. Like she's totally unfazed by anything that has to do with like what I told you about the Pedro Martinez thing, that like charity foundation gala that we went to. She was sitting next to like Jason Veritek and like Jim Rice, and she didn't even know, like just not even like she's yeah. So it's cool to kind of have like it's been important for me to have that separation finally, because when I was at Barstool living in New York City, it was just nonstop 24/7 career job, blog, podcast, tweet, Instagram, and just having, you know, work panic attacks in your sleep every single night and waking up in a panic every single morning thinking that you missed something. Yeah, like when Stanton got traded to the Yankees. I don't know if you remember that night, but that was I believe it was in December. And the rumors started at probably 10 p.m. and then we went to Village Tavern in New York, and bars don't close till 4 a.m. So we're all hammered, scrolling, trying to get updates on Stanton to the Yankees, because at the time that was my favorite baseball player. I was like, if my favorite baseball player goes to the Yankees, this is gonna be terrible. And stayed up until 5 a.m. just hammered, waiting for some news to break. Went to sleep, set my alarm for 8, but like the news broke at 7 a.m. and Dave was pissed at me that I wasn't blogging it at 7 a.m. I was like, bro, it's 7 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Like that's a little crazy, but that just creates the panic in you to always be looking at your phone. But yeah, like this relationship, like I've just kind of trained myself, like there's work life and then there's just be at home and live in the moment life, and I've never been able to do that before. I've never like I think I still probably work as many hours. I'm just not thinking about work when I put my phone down for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I very relatable feelings on every end of the spectrum. It's yeah, we still, I mean, Twitter's changed a lot, and it can be just brutal sometimes now. I think we're a lot better than we were for a little bit, especially getting everything off the ground, because it's like, you know, you're just fight for your life mode. Now it's like, hey, you know, Max Fried rumors are actually happening, and when the clock turns to 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, you're like, okay, so are we doing this or are we not? Is there a West Coast sports game I can watch till 12:30 and try to stay up just in case or not? But yeah, man, that's it's a wild feeling. And I know you're one of the few guys that truly does know that feeling, because a lot of fans know that feeling too, but they also don't have to hop in front of a mic afterwards, or, you know, there's some nights I like to indulge in a weed gummy just to help with my, my cataracts. And that's, okay, now I've got to talk about their fit on the Yankees and all that. That, again, it's, I'm not a big blessings guy, but the fact that we get to do that is very cool. But it's also the 300 nights something doesn't happen. It's also a little anxiety filled, which sometimes not as fun.
Right. Yeah, like you're sitting there and it's December 19th and it's 10:45 at night and we're watching our show, but I've got like my phone is like on my knee just in case it goes off, and it's like, is that really necessary? And it's like, you don't understand. Like I could get a phone call or a FaceTime from someone being like, hey, I just got traded to the Red Sox, or hey, I just signed with the Red Sox, and that could mean the difference of, that's like a career booster thing that could happen. And you just have to be available. It's like being a doctor. You just have to be ready to roll at all times. When the Red Sox traded for Garrett Crochet, my girlfriend's youngest daughter had a cheer competition in Disney. So we were in Disney at the time, and we're live streaming, doing an emergency podcast while I'm in line for Winnie and the Pooh.
Right.
And you just have to be with someone that understands, like, this is just how it is sometimes, you know, like I can turn it off as much as I possibly can, but you also have to understand, like, there is at times no turning it off. Like, an emergency podcast is an emergency podcast for a reason. We're in line for Winnie the Pooh. That's part of the emergency aspect of it.
Right.
But yeah, she doesn't care. I mean, like, I think one of the big things, like you mentioned, the West Coast stuff is, when she goes to bed, I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed. You know, like,
Right.
before I would stay up until, like, if there was a 17 inning game, Dodgers Padres, and it's 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
When she goes to bed, I go to bed. And it's, yeah, like, I'll watch the highlights in the morning. Like, I don't need to watch every single game every single night. Like, that's just not necessary. So yeah, like, there's been some, and then, like, the pitch clock too has been great, by the way.
Huge,
not to just credit
Oh
her,
my
but the
God.
pitch clock has been fantastic for having a life, you know, like, before, if the games were ending at 10:45, 11 p.m., now they might end at 10:15. You're like, I could squeeze in an episode of Ray Donovan before I go to sleep now.
Right.
Like, why not? Yeah. So
Man.
it's definitely been different. It's been nice. It's been a nice change of pace.
Yeah, and that the breaking stuff, it's like, that's kind of the fun stuff. And I think it's cool that I think both of us have our supporters that I think now being in line for Winnie the Pooh is an additive where
Yes.
that note has changed, where early on it's like, dude, what are you doing? We just signed them and you're at Winnie the Pooh, where now it's like, dude, Jared's at Winnie the Pooh. He's talking about it. And like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that shift has happened, because
Sure.
that's I know for a few of our trades and stuff, that's made it a lot easier. Like, dude, just pick up the phone, say, get your thoughts out. It's gonna be okay.
Right.
The audio's not perfect. Well, hey man, I'm glad we did this, and I'm glad I got.
I'm
to
glad
see
we
you,
did this
'cause
too.
too long, man. But you
We gotta do a home and home. We gotta get you on to do the same, break down some Yankees.
let me know. I'm beloved and hated by the people. So if it's,
I don't know that that's true.
yeah, I fly under the radar, and I just, someone's like, fuck Jomboy, I'm like, yeah, that guy, right? No, I haven't seen Peralta I don't know what's happening. Am I the problem?
No, so I'll be honest with
Where's
you.
Dallas been? Where have I been?
Because now Dallas is doing like 150 something games
He's
a year.
the
Like,
guy.
I barely see. Yeah,
That's
like,
nuts, by the way.
yeah,
Like,
I
it's
know.
awesome, but it's nuts.
Yeah, like, he's doing like 150 games, whatever it is. But last year was probably the least amount of games that I went to in person at Fenway, maybe since I was like in high school.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like that, like, it was bad vibes, and everyone was just
Yeah.
kind of like, life is happening, and like, Steve goes to the Cape a lot during the summertime.
Must be nice, Steve.
Yeah, I think his
Yeah.
family has like a Cape house that, like, they go to, and Coley's up in Maine. He just had his third kid,
Oh.
so he had a newborn over the summer. There was just a lot happening.
We're all unks now, man.
We're getting up
just
there.
Happened, dude.
We're getting up there. Life certainly has happened in the last few years for all of us baseball content creators.
Still waiting for my beard, but one day.
It's
One
coming.
day, it's coming.
I still have faith in it. Yeah.
Jared, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Let's do it.
Appreciate you.